We're going to round out our resume page with activities and community involvement and computer skills. We're going to combine both of those sections into this video because the activities and community involvement section is pretty short and quick to get through. So we'll finish it out with those two things. Let's jump into it. So I'm going to locate where we left off, which was our work experience section. And what I want to do is I want to locate that closing main tag from previous. So I have my work section here. I can see all that code there, see that closing main tag, place my cursor right after the end of it, and then hit the enter return key. So the activities community involvement section is going to get that light gray background. We're kind of alternating with that. I forgot to mention in the previous tutorials that if you don't want to apply that light gray background to those individual sections to break them up, because you want more of a cleaner look with the all white or whatever color that you have as your background, go for it. You don't need to do this, do that same type of styling. So let's type our main class. So left caret main, and then class main. And then add that secondary right after that, light gray BG, pops up my code hint, and then hit the right caret, enter return key a couple times, and then I back that out so it goes back on the same level, and then move your cursor up, and then tab in. So from here, we're going to add a row, so div class row, and right caret, enter return a couple times, and then push your cursor up, and then tab in. Now, with my example, I don't have as many community service involvement sections in here. And if you have more, and you have quite a few, if you have quite a bit of a list, I'm just going to tab over real quick and look at our example. There's a lot of dead space right in here to the right of this section, and I'm not thrilled with it, with how it looks in our example. So if I were to address this and fix this, what I might do is add some columns like I have done previously. So like in computer skills, I have those 3 columns down here. That might be a way to fill out some of this space. If you have a lot of activities and community involvement and you want to organize them in that way, I think that's a great call. If not, if you only have like the 3 like I have, you might just be stuck with how that's going to look. So tab back over to where I was, and I need to type in each one of those things. So first off, I need to start with my header, so make sure I get my heading in there. So this is an H3, so H3, not H4, and then activities. And if I want to use the ampersand, I can. So ampersand AMP. And community involvement. If you don't want to use the ampersand, I get it. Let's spell involvement right. There we go. And so after that H3, place your cursor at the close of that H3 tag, hit the enter return key. And mine is just that unordered list like I said before. So we're going to type in the left caret UL, right caret, enter return key to close that out, and then push your cursor up and then tab in. And then I have all my different activities and community involvement. So I'm going to just do 3 LI tags here. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste from mine. So I'm going to go off screen here for a sec and then grab that. So Control C and then Command V or Control V in there, enter return. So you of course would be opening up your resume page in your Word doc and then copying and pasting each one of these from your resume that we did earlier in the year. So I also have Honor Society in here. And you'll notice that when I copy and paste my text in here, I'm copying and pasting this from our example just to save time for our tutorial, so you're not watching me type in all of these lines. But notice that with the dates, I am consistent in using that end dash throughout, so that when you see that throughout my page, you're going to see that consistency throughout. That's what we always talk about in terms of resume building. You want to see consistency at the very least, right? So let's open up and create a new LI tag there, and then finish out our section here by grabbing our last community activity involvement and pasting that in there as well. Okay, there we go. So that's going to finish out that little section, activities and community involvement. I'm going to locate that closing main tag at the bottom there and then place my cursor right at the end and hit the enter return key, delete that back, and then type in main class main. So this one doesn't really get much of anything in terms of, like adding a secondary class or anything like that. So hit the enter return key, backspace, push it up, tab over. So we start off with a div class of row again, pretty standard like we've been doing. And then close that out with the right curly brace, hit the enter return key a couple times, and then move your cursor up and then tab in. So here we're going to type in our heading, which is an H3 heading because it's a heading for that section. And then so computer skills is what that section is titled. And then if you remember what our design looks like, it has 3 different columns in here, and we've organized them by advanced, proficient, and developing sections. I think this is a great way to do this. You might think that it's kind of, while you're showcasing your weaknesses or whatever, that you don't really know these as well. But I don't think of it that way. I think of it as, you've learned some of these skills, and you could continue learning them if given the chance. So that's kind of the way I like to look at that. And it shows your diverse range of skills in computer technology, computer skills. So I think that's really important. Obviously we have quite a bit advanced here in terms of Word and Docs and all that kind of stuff. And then as you get to some of the more complicated stuff, that's where you get to the proficient and developing. So I think that's always good to showcase on your resume. So let's tab over. We need to create those columns. So I'm going to locate where we had that row, because what I want to do is I want to contain all 3 of those columns in a row. So I'm going to locate that closing div tag after row and hit the enter return key, not twice, just once, enter, and then div class row, enter return, push that cursor up, and then tab in, and then we are going to add that div class grid 3, and then right caret, and then enter return a couple times there, and then push your cursor up and then tab in. And then so from here, each one of these sections, we need to use that call span class that we created to create each one of those data columns or data cells. So div class call span 1, and right caret, and then hit the enter return key a couple times and tab in. So I actually need to make 2 more of those. So let's go ahead and copy and paste those real quick. But you notice that I left the spacing in there for each one of those, and that's because there's going to be a list that goes in each one of those, and I want to style them that way. So I'm going to grab that call span, just those 2 lines there, 3 lines with the space in between, Command C or Control C, enter return, Command V or Control V 2 more times. Okay, and then place your cursor into that first section, and I'm going to head each one of these cells with an H4, and that one's going to get our advanced skills. And then place your cursor at the end of that closing H4, hit the enter return key, left caret UL, enter return key a couple more times, push your cursor up, and then tab in, and then your LI tag, and then you can start building in your advanced skills. I'm going to type in Windows 7, 10. If you've had experience with Windows 7, the machines that we use currently in our lab are Windows 10 machines. So if you've never used anything else, you probably just want to stick to Windows 10. Although Windows 7 was very similar, not wildly different, but different. And then enter return, LI, and then Microsoft Word. And if you have been using Google Docs for a long time, I think this is also a great skill to showcase for your advanced and anything in terms of the Google thing. I think more and more people are using Google Drive and Google Docs and things like that, and I think it's important that people know that you know how to use those things. Next section, moving on. Let's put our cursor in between that second column there, and we're going to type in an H4 tag, and these are our proficient skills. And cursor after there, and then UL, enter return, tab, push up, tab in, LI tag, and then here is where I'm going to type in Adobe Photoshop. And you guys are currently using the Creative Cloud version of Adobe Photoshop, so make sure you put that in there. And then if you want to go ahead and put in things like Adobe Illustrator, if you've taken some of Crafty's classes, Adobe Illustrator CC. We haven't used this program this year, but we've used it in the past, like Adobe Spark. We might end up using it again this year. Any of the other Adobe products that you've used that you feel pretty confident in, say like Adobe Premiere Rush, Audition, anything else that you feel pretty good about, I would go ahead and put in that developing stage. And let's move on to our last column, which is our developing column. And the reason why I use developing, I don't want to necessarily use beginner, because to me, beginner implies that's as far as you want to take it. And developing implies that you're learning it and that you want to continue learning it. So I think that's a great word choice for this section. So developing, and then after that H4, enter return key, UL tag, enter return key a couple times, move up, and then tab in, and then LI tag. So here I'm highlighting coding languages, and rather than say like highlighting Dreamweaver, which you could if you want to go ahead and throw in Dreamweaver as one of those, to me what you guys are learning is more fundamental to the language versus the program. And I think that's more important to highlight than just knowing, say, I know how to use Dreamweaver. Because if you, say, went to a tech firm or a tech company or whatever and knew anything about Dreamweaver, they might say, oh, well, Dreamweaver's, that's a terrible platform for designing websites. And so what you want to avoid are things like that kind of put you in a box like that. And so really what you guys are learning is a language. You're learning HTML and CSS. And you can write HTML and CSS in different platforms. So if you have that basic understanding of those languages, then I think that's really important to highlight. And then say if you've taken Lohman's programming class, I would put in that as well. And I would do so doing the same thing. So I'm going to type in the ampersand symbol. And so if you've used like C# or C+ or whatever it might be, then I would go ahead and put that in there as one of the things that I would like to highlight. Okay. And then I have in here Adobe Premiere as well, or say like you want to put in Adobe After Effects. Adobe Premiere is one of those programs that is super large. If you've ever taken one of our digital media classes, you get a taste of that. You don't really get the full-blown, experience of using Premiere because it's such a large program. So there we have it. There's our 3 skills. Let's go ahead and check out what our page looks like here. Scroll down. There it is, and nicely lined up there for us. And looks like we're good to go. Let's go ahead and double check. Go back to our view, developer mode, developer tools. Let's check out our mobile view, make sure everything is floating where it should be. Our work experience looks really good. That's why I wanted to make sure we did it that way with our, the H5s and stuff. Like, look how nicely that looks as you scroll down in the tube version. And same thing with our computer skills. Although our H4 does kind of overshadow our H3. But that's okay. I think that works. I think that works for this design. That's going to do it for our resume page. Next up on our design, let's go back to our mock-up here. And next up on our design is the education roadmap plan. So this will be broken down in a few different sections. And but once we get moving on this, the rest of our portfolio goes by pretty quickly.